Good morning, good afternoon, and good evening, everybody. Welcome to the Matt Beatty Talk Show with our very special guest, Lyndsay, Butler. If you'd like to help make a contribution to the show, you can send an e-transfer to malcontents@shaw.ca or use our PayPal with the link paypal.me/mattbeatty1. This episode of the talk show is sponsored by the Langdon Firehouse Bar and Grill, where they are still doing pre-order, curbside, and delivery. You can reach them at their phone number 403-478-9114. Now, ladies and gentlemen, please welcome your very special host, Matt Beatty.
Thought I was enough, a little fixer where you could lay your head. Honestly, I tried, even though you cried alone in your bed. You fought through the years when suddenly you feared it was doomed from the start. What a fragile thing we've made, the foundation poorly laid. I'm falling apart, falling apart, struggling on my own, keeping up for two in a single person home. You're made of better stuff, I can never be enough, and I'm falling apart. All that I could do when we were through and I was all alone. I tried to make it right, I called you every night, but you were never home. Tried to fix my ways to show you I could stay, move back in your heart, but you built a new life as someone else's wife, and I'm falling apart, falling apart, struggling on my own, keeping up for two in a single person home. Made of better stuff, I can never be enough, and I'm falling apart. You've a happier address, never mind this mess, I'm just falling apart. We have Lyndsay Butler joining us. Now, Lyndsay is a tried and true, tested, grown, raised, and born right here in Alberta country musician. She's got a new album coming out. Obviously, there's weird delays. We'll talk about that. This whole isolation thing has adjusted a lot of people's schedules for making and putting out music. Lyndsay is a recipient of a bunch of different accolades that have happened, and we'll talk about that as well. But for right now, she's going to sing us one of her original songs on this upcoming album called the Prairie Settler Song.
Call this land the prairies, we call this land our home. Great-great-granddaddy broke this ground over 100 years ago. They came across the ocean, they traveled far and wide, through this wild land unknown, and it's a wonder they survived. traded up some horseshoes for a bag of pine needle tea, remedied from a medicine man, and a headdress made of beads. You can hear the coyotes howling, getting closer by the night. New calf hits the ground and it's gone before daylight. Yippee-yi-yi, yippee-yi-oh, yippee-yi-yi, yippee-yi-oh, never gonna go, sticking my claim right here till the dust comes out, leave these bones. Yippee-yi-yi, seeds are gonna sow, only with these bleeding hands and a dream made out of stone. The trail's cutting deeper, the ruts are wearing down. Wagon ride across Rupert's land, still 80 miles from town. The planting season's burnt up, the earth was hot and dry, praying down on our knees for the rain to fall from the sky. Yippee-yi-yi, yippee-yi-oh, yippee-yi-oh, never gonna go, sticking my claim right here till the dust comes out these bones. Yippee-yi-hey, seeds are gonna sow, only with these bleeding hands and a dream made out of stone.
I still got to get the audience applause noises because I always feel that it's a little naked after we finish.
So weird.
That's have you gotten you've been doing live streams on your Facebook, and you've been trying to do some things on Instagram as well. How has that been adjusting to not having an audience in front of you?
Well, as you can tell by that song, I got reading the comments one time I looked up and I muffled the words a little bit. So, I mean, as if playing a guitar, singing, and, you know, making all the words sound right has, isn't enough. It's like, great, now I have all these people talking to me, which is super hard. As far as not having an audience, it is so weird when you're like, well, I hope that was good. Can you hear me?
At least we're not comedians trying to do a show, you know, telling a joke and hoping somebody's laughing.
I mean, I bad jokes into my, you know, regular routine, but yeah, that would be especially hard.
For the point of what I like of this new era of what we're trying to do and what you're doing is you see the community. You do see a wider range of people.
I love it when people comment where they're watching from, because I mean, how many people follow me on whatever or follow us on our socials that don't have the opportunity to come actually like see us live? So now they can experience the show or hear some songs and my bad jokes. Like now they can be a part of it.
Yeah, the hardest part I'm missing is nobody's buying me shooters.
Well, I'm highly stocked on the whiskey, so you know.
In your bio, you talk about being a 7th generation Albertan. Does that weight of being a 7th generation Albertan, playing country music, playing, you know, the official music of this era, this province, this people, does being a 7th generation carry an extra weight and an extra responsibility for you?
I would say definitely. So the last song I just played, the Prairie Settler song, that is 100% my like heritage. You know, great granddaddy broke this ground over 100 years ago. That's just facts. So, and I think for songs going forward, there's a really great history around here, and some amazing people have documented it so well. And I still have amazing resources as like my grandparents, neighbors, friends that also know the history of even my little area. So I'm really kind of digging into that right now, especially I find since I'm not out living and making new memories and new experiences to write about or pull from. I want to write a little more about the history of being Albertan and some of the neat stories that have come from right here.
Now, some of the history in the song you talked about coming from overseas. So, where did your great grandfather come from originally? What's the history there?
I think that one was English, but we're all of my importation, I suppose, or like immigration happened, importation.
Importation. That can go up with moistly as my new favorite word.
We were all immigrated here before Pier 21 even opened. So I have Scottish, Irish, English, everybody just leaving Europe because they wanted space and to be able to make something of themselves.
Yeah, and obviously, was there some initial settling out east before they made it out here?
From the history that I've read and from what I know, they hung out in Ontario, like Toronto area, to just kind of like regroup. They would work a little bit to make a little bit money to actually be able to provide for themselves a little bit out here and grab supplies and stuff to be able to live through the first winter, pretty much.
I can imagine how hard that would have been as a challenge to get out here and have to deal with a winter for the first time. Obviously, it's very much the coming over and starting to settle. Does this mean that this gets to be potentially a song that you can revisit in a generational capacity? That you've already maybe started to take the song and adapt it and become the next generation after the first one, kind of a continuation of the story.
I think so. I mean, I think it's definitely a theme that I want to continue with. I mean, it's a pretty broad theme right now. And I think I can even specify a little bit more in different aspects of life. The fact that like agricultural practices have changed so much, just everything like that. But at the same time, our products are the same. How, it looks different on the outside, but we're still calving the same way they did, 100 years ago. We have different practices now. Like the survival rate is much better, thank goodness. Just different things like that, but keeping the theme of how, we're still here doing what they would do 100 years ago.
That resource to write that down and be able to perform these songs. Do you think that elevates you as a musician in this ability that you can immediately give more credence to these songs and more natural believability to these songs?
I mean, I would hope so. I mean, I'm kind of just what you see is what you get. So if it's coming out of my mouth, chances are it's either a bad joke or it's true. So, which you should be able to tell. I think for me, it's the fact that sometimes the song just shows up and I don't really know where it comes from. Like the first verse of that chorus, they call this land the prairies, we call this land our home, is that I don't know where that line came from. It just showed up and just fell out of my mouth. So I think in instances like those, it's almost like I'm not writing a song. It's like I'm on this land and it's writing it almost. Something in my blood's writing it. Something along those lines, which I think could add credibility because I don't really feel like it's me sometimes. I think it's just important to come from that real center of just authenticity, from whether it's, you know, the authentic history that I can bring to the situation, or bringing the authentic raw emotion that is what songs are created on. And I hope that that gets brought through with co-writing as well.
So if you're, as you said there, everything that you're doing is a lived experience. And when you're writing, you're bringing, you know, truthful, you know, absolute emotion that you feel. So that leads me, like some of the other songs that I've listened to off the album and songs, and I think you've got one that you were thinking of playing. Where does a song like the Stalker song come from then? If this is, you know, on, obviously if it's coming from an emotional level, I would assume that's either it's happened to you and you've twisted it to suit you singing it, or it's actually something that you've kind of done on your own basis and twisted around. What would the Stalker song be about?
Okay, so the Stalker song is 100% from my point of view, and I call it the Stalker song because it just sounds kind of creepy. But if you actually break down the words and like look at it as a poem, it's more so an aggressive female that's like pretty assertive, and she's like, you're the one, I know you're the one, you probably don't know you're the one yet, but I know it, and I'm just gonna make it happen. Is kind of the gist behind it, I guess. But I just thought it was kind of fun to play with, kind of more of a creepy stalkery kind of vibe on that, as if you're like social media creeping somebody, or, you know.
Well, I mean, obviously, with Every Breath You Take, the song from the Police and Sting, you know, that kind of emotion is a universal sort of a theme as well, that everybody has that part in them as well, that they've kind of looked from afar. I would assume that social media has probably changed the whole capacity for people to be stalkers, that maybe all of us have a little bit of a stalker quality now at that point. So would... does this mean I get to press and say, is it about any particular artist, or and that maybe that's just an influence in general or anything like that? No, this is going to remain. I'm seeing this head shake. Okay, so we'll let that just be up to the listener. But can I get you to play it?
Yes.
Awesome.
Hey, you! Have you heard of the Lyndsay Firehouse Bar and Grill?
No.
Well, you do now. And guess what? They're still doing pre-order, curbside, and delivery.
Now, I initially wrote it as a joke, and that's why the Stalker song was funny. But now I think it's a cool song, so that's how she can evolve like that. You're gonna laugh at all my jokes. You're gonna cry when I have to go. You're gonna fall hard and fast. You're gonna forget everyone from your past. You pretend you don't know. Let me show you how it's gonna go. I'm gonna make you see that you belong with me. You're gonna love me till the end of time, 'cause I'm gonna make you mine. I'm gonna put you under a spell, gonna throw a few bucks in a wishing well. You're never gonna be the same. One day I'm gonna take your name. You pretend you don't know. Let me show you how it's gonna go. I'm gonna make you see that you belong with me. You're gonna love me
Yes. That one line in there, throw a couple bucks in the wishing well. That is a great line.
Thank you.
Wow.
I would
just
just out.
well, that's sometimes they say the best songs just, spill out. What was I just watching recently? It was, reading Elton John's book, actually. It's been one of my things I've been trying to do, but he had a line talking about his songwriting process, which I really enjoyed, but him and and Bernie Taupin didn't write together at all. Bernie would just write lyrics and just hand it and then run out of the room. And Elton didn't want anybody in the room, and he would just put the songs together. So they never actually worked together. They worked separately on their parts and then put them together. But they said, he was mentioning that your song was 15 minutes.
Wow.
You got the words, and he just threw it down and it was done. I'm like, wow, do the best lines just hit you out of the blue like that?
Yeah, I think they do.
Now, you said the song kind of started as a bit of a joke, but with the lyrics and as you're writing them, how much harder was it to get the rest? You had probably a couple lines to start with. How long was the process of the whole song?
That song was fairly quick, actually. I don't know, and I find, oh man, it was done and finished within a couple days, which I know doesn't sound quick, but I didn't sit here and work on it for a couple days. I give myself the freedom to carry on with my life. I find when I'm singing the song and I'm driving, I actually get better ideas or a different melody comes to me. So I like to kind of if it's not instant, I'll give myself an hour or two. And if I'm fighting it too hard, I just carry on with my life. And I always think if it's a good line, if it's a good melody, if it's something good, it'll come back. Or, I don't know, you got to start doing something with your left brain so that your right brain can be heard. Totally. If that makes sense.
Now, from your initial, your finished product of the song, now you take it in, you're recording an album. You've got Aaron Young was co-producing with you?
That's right, yeah.
Correct. You had mentioned when we were talking earlier that you'd given kind of some ideas musically. You sent him some ideas of influences of yours that you want to kind of integrate in and not sound like, but emulate the tonal idea of. Yeah. And obviously I heard right away when I heard that, I heard the Pistol Annies, which I know is one of your favorite groups.
Yeah.
How close to the song as you and Aaron produced it was it originally, or has this one kind of had to take on a different approach during the recording process?
It's pretty close to how I went in with my acoustic guitar. It's just got some kind of neat little nuances, some different sounds in it. And I mean, anytime you're adding a band to a song, it's going to take on a whole new life and hopefully get bigger and better. It's, I don't know. It's still pretty close to the rough kind of idea of it. It's fairly stripped down. All my stuff is not, it's not too shiny sounding. I didn't want to sound shiny and perfect, and I always say, don't take the whiskey out of my voice or out of my songs. So I've earned it.
Were there any other tunes? Now, there's a couple that, I've heard, I guess not maybe over the process, but I've heard a couple of times from demo versions that you had originally done up that I'd heard, and then live versions that I've heard with you in a band, or were you a solo? And now I've heard kind of the final cut of what it's going to be on the album that have adjusted. Songs like Gypsy Heart have a whole different feeling to it now. Yeah. As opposed, did you find that process liberating, that you didn't necessarily have to own the full part of the song, that you had that collaborative effort? And was that something maybe easy to have somebody else come in, or was that a difficult process to let somebody else put a little of their input into your songs?
Well, I'm pretty sure Aaron will say it was a difficult process. I am pretty dead set on exactly what I want my sound to be. I feel more sure of my sound than I've ever felt in my career. I think for me to be recording an album right now is just perfect timing. I think, yeah, going in with such a strong idea of what I wanted it to sound like, where I would have one or two tracks per each song. So like, okay, I like this part of this song. I like this beat. Can we add brushes like that? Can we, pretty detailed of what I liked. I like this bass to sound like this. I need a bigger, I need less snare. I need whatever. Like so specific that I was learning a whole bunch of other different sounds of other instruments that I don't play just so I could really get that sound. So it was, as much as I'd like to say, oh yeah, just let Aaron do it. It was like, I don't like this. And we would fix that specific thing together.
Now, you know, judging by some of our past, you didn't go to music school. You indicated you picked up the guitar a little later than most people, as you said, about 19.
Mm-hmm.
Obviously, working in a process like that with somebody who is a very studied musician, what new things did you learn that you go, wait a minute, I now know how to articulate that specifically that I maybe never was able to do with a band before, and now you've got that exact phrase down?
I'm probably not going to say I learned articulation and phrases. I think it was more Aaron learning my vocabulary. Because I'm just like, I don't like that sound where it's going, I don't like that. So it was, and then we would figure out what that actual sound was, whether I retained what the sound was. I don't know. But I would say, yeah, learning to speak a little bit more musician and him learning to speak a little bit Lyndsay Butler was, we have the language now.
Anything on the album, so when people get a chance to get this, was there any one thing that came out there and surprised you, took you completely by surprise in putting your songs down, where you weren't anticipating it to be a certain way and you're like, wow, that is amazing, and I can't believe that came out of me in this part of the musical process?
I would say the co-producing part. I really didn't know that this sounds like such a singer thing to say, but I really didn't think I noticed and really cared how the other instruments were, doing their thing. And now even when I'm playing with a band, I'm already like, nope, don't do it like that. I need straighter bass. I don't want your cool jazzy bass going on. Straight bass, like way straighter. And I think just hearing it as a whole has changed. I mean, the way I listen to music has now changed. I would say when I was laying down vocals, I also was surprised at how, like, I knew exactly how I was going to sing it. I went in there in the mind frame that, like, 3 takes and it's done. And if it doesn't, then it's not today. And how I've recorded a couple times before with different engineers and stuff. And it was very much like, oh, can you say it like this? Can you do it like this? Can you just very much like molding my voice to what either they thought was going to sell or whatever. And this was like, nope, this is how I sound. I wanted, and that was so important for me from day one of deciding, yes, I'm going to record a full album, was I want it to sound exactly how it's going to sound live. So that was super important for me.
So now in your history, you've been in a number of different, I'll call them contests. Obviously, you did very well in the Project Wild that just concluded. You'd won the Ranchman's Rising Star, the Nashville, what's that one called again? I'm like,
Nashville North Star.
There we go. So you've done really well in all these. Now, you've just stated that the album now, you've got a more grasp on how you are as a performer and what you want it to sound like. Would it be fair to say you're glad you kind of had some hiccups in the past in recording songs where you've worked with different people and you hadn't gotten that full album out yet, but now you've done it now, so that it's a good thing that you've discovered yourself in a more concise way, that you didn't actually put out a product in a full album format 10 years ago?
Yes, 1,000%. I call it divine timing. and I have a very powerful, positive spin behind absolute perfect timing, even though you may not see it as perfect timing right then and now, like in the present. When you look back, you're going to look, okay, good thing that didn't work out the way I wanted it to, or at the time, because that wouldn't be what I want now. I think it's huge. I'm so grateful that, I had a couple speed bumps or hiccups, as you want to call them, in the road on the way to an album, because yeah, this is the album it should be, not what it could have been with something else.
Now, talking about defining yourself, one of the things that we've talked about a little bit is having a chance to have performed with you. You sent me a great group of songs, both original and some different cover ones. And what I felt that was really good, especially having a daughter, was all of a sudden this ability to listen to music and go, no, there's something that she can hold on to that's not wishy-washy, old school, women waiting around for a man. It was women taking. So I was always very, I was surprised by how positive all the messages were. My daughter picking up on songs that were coming out of that, I thought was very inspiring. And I'm hoping, because I'm asking for her, because she's going to be watching this as well, that you could play one of her favorite songs. And I know it's also going to be on the upcoming album as well. And that's Dolly Parton's Bargain Store.
Yeah, that's right. So this is going to be on the album. And I can definitely play it for you.
Just a friendly reminder to everyone that the Langton Firehouse is still doing curbside, pre-order, and delivery. So why not give them a call? You won't regret it.
This is honestly, it's such a B-side Dolly song that it almost makes me sad, because it is such a great song. And the production that they put on it, it's so cool. So it's the Bargain Store, and yeah, I'll play it for you. My life is like into a bargain store, and I may have just what you're looking for. If you don't mind the fact that all the merchandise is used, with a little mending, it could be as good as new. Like take for instance this old broken heart. If you will just replace the missing parts, you would be surprised to find how good it really is. Take it and you never will be sorry that you did. Bargain stores open, come inside. You can easily afford the price. Love is all you need to purchase all the merchandise, and I can guarantee you'll be completely satisfied. And I can guarantee you'll be completely satisfied. Bargain stores open, come inside. You can easily afford the price. Love is all you need to purchase all the merchandise, and I can guarantee you'll be completely satisfied.
in the song you've got the merchandise. Obviously, she's not talking about merch and stuff, but so if people are out there and they're looking for wonderful hats like this,
Yeah.
where can they find them? Because I know you don't have it on your website yet, but does that mean, at lyndsaybutler.com, they can send a message to be on your email list, and maybe, I don't know what would you say if they want merch like this? What can they get? What can they do?
Well, those hats have gone pretty fast. They've been a hot ticket. I think I have maybe 6 or 7 left. So if you actually really want one, you're going to have to contact me soon. Yeah, just drop an email at the contact me page on lyndssaybutler.com. Even on here, send me an email, send one to my Facebook page. Somebody on the team will check it out, and we'll see how we can get it over to you. The mail is still working, I believe, right now, so we can get something to you. We've got koozies, of course, and hats, and some patches as well.
I think having listened to your material now for a while, it can't be just a beer koozie. There's got to be like whiskey koozies, like one that'll fit a perfect Mickey in there all the time, and cover it up so it looks like you're something else. That would be a Lyndsay Butler thing, the whiskey koozie.
Well, I have some quotes out there for some flasks right now. So does that count? But I mean, it doesn't hide it what it's in. You could have cough syrup in there.
I guess so. Now you've recorded the album. Now, is it completely finalized? You got everything done and mastered and ready to go?
I believe so. I'm working on getting the songs coded and all that part that I'm going to ask somebody else to do. And then we can, get them out. Digital. I'm entertaining the thought of either CDs, compact discs, or vinyl. I think would be awesome. I just want to make sure that somebody's gonna want the product that I produce. So I'm still kind of figuring that one out.
Well, I've got in this family we do collect vinyl, so definitely if there's vinyl, let us know. But roundabout way of saying you've got all these generations of your family out there. Should you put some out on 8-track?
I actually don't think we have any tracks that are working yet, but
I'm sure there's somebody out there still listening on 8-tracks and wondering why no music has been produced from 1978 on.
I haven't heard anything new. Yeah.
Yeah. Has the obviously all of us self-isolating, has this been a good time for you to be writing more songs, and obviously it's held off your release date of your album. Has it impacted that a lot? And has it changed too many things for you? Are you, dealing with this in a good way, bad way?
Well, I just take it day by day. I think is important. I have bad days. I have good days. I have days where I'm like, that's fine. I'm home. I can write like 5 songs a day. So far, I think I've written 3 or 4. So it's like 1 a week. But like I said, it's kind of hard to pull from sitting at home. For the release, I've never done one before, so I don't really know how they're supposed to go. I've never released an album. So, this is totally new to me. So whatever's happening is just fine. We already talked about that. Divine timing is totally acceptable and welcome. I think, I'm wanting to hold off though still. I do really want to just tour the heck out of this thing when it's out. I want to be able to play it live for everybody, everywhere. So I do think that's important for me. But yeah, Thursdays keep me going. I have my live streams.
And you're also talking about moving into another area at some point in the future, moving into the Texas area into the United States. How do you think that's going to inform your decisions in Canada at that point? Would you be moving in a permanent, or just kind of doing a 6 and 6 month kind of thing back and forth?
Yeah, I would definitely. I'm not sure that it would be permanent right off the bat. I feel like going down there and just kind of building a presence there, seeing how they interpret my music, how it's being supported down there, that I'm growing a following. that the need is for me to be there. I think just the ability to be able to play like, you know, at least 5 shows a week would be, it's very tempting. And I do see that as like the end goal. I love it down there. And it's currently snowing here right now. So they don't really get that down there.
Well, there's one benefit of, the weather down there. You also get, I can understand, obviously you get the benefit of the population base being just so much larger, and the population there listening to this style of music already. A lot of the performers that I pay attention to that would suit your genre are all based in that area. So have you had a chance to do a lot of social media surfing and watching all these performers play their internet shows?
Yes, definitely. I'm thoroughly entertained while I watch some of my favorites. I watched Cora Blund's on, I think it was Sunday or Monday night. I can't remember now. All the days meshed together. And it was great. His banter is always good. He played a whole bunch of old favorite songs, and Vince Neil Emerson's been on a couple times. I think Coulter Wall's doing one next week, which would be awesome to watch. He's teaming up with Boot Barn, so that's pretty darn cool. And yeah, Charlie Crockett's been on doing a whole bunch. It's been super fun watching.
Everybody else that's out there, lindsaybutler.com. Check there for updates. You can find her on the Facebook and the Instagram. It's real easy. She's always got a hat in the picture, I think, now. So look. But go find them. You're putting shows on Thursdays for a live streaming audience on Facebook, correct?
Facebook and Instagram, yep.
Perfect. So there's Thursdays there, and check out. And obviously, I believe the album is kind of being pushed back into July now. So as long as people follow you on those things, they'll get all the information that they possibly need. So, exactly. Lyndsay, one more time, thanks very much for coming on my show, and hopefully we'll talk soon.
For having me.
Thank you. All right. Bye, everyone.
On behalf of the Matt Beatty Talk Show, we'd like to thank our guest, Lyndsay Butler. Guests of the Matt Beatty Talk Show receive a gift certificate from the Langdon Firehouse Bar and Grill, located at 1716 Center Street in beautiful downtown Langdon, Alberta. You can call them for pre-order, curbside pickup, or delivery at their number 403-478-9114. If you'd like to help make contributions to the show, you can send an e-transfer to malcontents@shaw.ca or use PayPal with the link paypal.me/mattbeatty1. Thank you again for watching the show, and we hope to see you all again. Have a great day tonight.